My name is Sherry Nelson. I work for Eugene Police Department. I've been in law enforcement since 1995 in some form or fashion. First of all, I will apologize for my attire. I'm supposed to have back surgery in a week and a half, and this is about as much as I can get on. So I can't get my uniform on, I can't wear my uniform on because I typically shouldn't be doing these, but I want to do this for you guys' presentation. Usually I'm in some uniform of some type. So I started in 1995 at Springfield Police Department. Then I went into parole and probation. I worked for Eugene Police Department and I managed the police substation. And then I've been back at Eugene Police. I supervise the community engagement team, which we do a lot of the outreach and prevention and the education pieces of it. So I've switched from a sworn capacity to a non-sworn capacity where I educate. The reason I do this type of training is back in, is anyone around when the Thurston shooting happened? Yes. Yeah. Okay, so I graduated from Thurston High School. I played sports there. I was a softball coach and I coached sports there for 17 years. And I was a reserve police officer at the time of the shooting. The shooting happened. I was sitting in the dentist chair and I got a page, remember pagers. I got a page of 911. My parents still lived next to the high school when the shooting happened. My phone went off, said that there was a shooting at the high school. My job, basically, is I had to show up and I had to guard the kiddos that were shot. That was my job. The school that I went to, the school that I coached at, the school that I knew all the teachers. Kip's parents was one of my teachers. I trained his mom at the gym. So I had this firsthand knowledge of this shooting that took place at my school that bordered my parents' house. A traumatic incident that happened not only to me but to my teachers, and I basically just had to suck it up and do my job and make sure that I took care of my people and took care of the kids and took care of everyone there. So that's kind of my why of why I started teaching this. And if at any point in time in this presentation this bothers you, feel free to get up and walk out. There's no real blood in this, it's all reenactment stuff, but it's something that's traumatic. It's something that society has forced us to have to train for, have to educate, and prepare for. So that's kind of about a little bit of me. I have two kids, 19 and 22. My husband's a lieutenant at APD. He's got 2 years and 10 months left, and I have about 5 years left to retire. So my piece is educating society, businesses, schools, on how to prevent and prepare for an active shooter, active threat, active incident at any point in time. I will typically use active shooter, sometimes active threat when I talk about this stuff. And the Deacon reached out to me to be able to help you and educate you guys. It sounds like you have a great plan in place here, which is awesome. And you guys have gone through some training as well, but this is just another piece of how to help your church, if you're out at a mall, if you're at a restaurant, of how to prepare. I do have some stats on here. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but if you guys want to look at it and see and you have questions about it, please feel free to ask. And then all my information is from the FBI. It's either Homeland Security or FBI, where I get my data and my stats. Off the situation that you guys are in, have you had any recent threats or concerns in your guys' congregation that you're worried about that brought this to light?
Well, we got some emails, sounded like a schizoid, saying there was someone held hostage in the apartments next door. And it was about 3 or 4 of them. Is that a threat? No. Is it attention by someone who's unstable? Yes.
Yeah.
Or could be someone just planning a prank?
Yes, which we get sometimes, but also placing a little bit of fear in, basically raising awareness that something's going on or they're concerned about something. Because it happens quite a bit. And even to this day, I'll get emails from random people that I know that are threatening, but you just put it on your radar. You pay attention to where you're at.
Yes, it's on my radar now.
Yeah, you pay attention to it. And you have a different clientele in this neighborhood.
Yes.
You do. I mean, there is no questions about that. You have different clientele in this neighborhood, so it causes concern for you. You want to be a welcoming congregation.
Yes.
But who do you not welcome and who do you welcome when you have someone that comes in with a guitar on the street? That comes into your church and wants to sit in service. Is that normal for you guys? It might be in this area. It might be someone especially who's coming in off the street who is in a house that wants to come in and see what you guys are about, or might need a warm place to sit. Yeah, so that's hard. I think it's really hard when you want to be welcoming, but you also have to protect your congregation. Just shooting the other day, there was one site, and they were talking about Uvalde, Texas, this morning on CNN, about the information came out and they released the stuff about how the police were in the riot. All the stuff that I have, that I've seen, and they were in the right. You don't sit and wait 77 minutes to go in to get kids out. My husband was a sergeant for the SROs here in town when 4J disbanded them. He's been in the 2 school shootings here.
Who is disbanded?
4J. So
Oh,
4J,
their SRO?
4J has disbanded all the school resource officers, and we only have 1 SRO in Eugene, that's at Bethel School District. So the school board thought that police officers shouldn't be in schools because, well, only time police come to schools is when it's bad, so why not have police, so they don't want us to be there. They chose to not have us there in 2020. August of 2020, they took the SROs out of the schools. So he was part of that. And I know that when he's going in to a school, he's not gonna sit and wait for 10 of his buddies to come help him out. He's gonna go in, he's gonna take out the threat, and he's gonna go protect those kids. I knew that. So Uvalde, that's a hard one for me. It was really hard when and again, it's an independent study, but I disagree from what I know. But again, I wasn't there, but that's not what our department would do. So our goal today is talk about some stats, how we respond as police, you as citizens, what we're gonna do, and then just questions that you guys might have. This was the most recent shooting that just took place at the church. Do you guys remember this in the media?
Yeah.
Very briefly.
This talks about how 2 off-duty officers were in church service at the time, that they went in and took the threat out, and basically she had gone in with her kiddo and planning a mass shooting at the church. What we don't know is what her intent was, because she was killed. She was fatally killed in the incident. But 2 officers, because there's a lot of churches will have off-duty officers that are part of the security team that don't initially attend their congregation. So this chief praised the off-duty officers for taking out the threat and stopping it. So someone saw something and someone did something. But this is just a little snippet of where it talked about, the chief was talking about the everyone on their great response.
No.
In Houston tonight,
We all have kids, so.
At Turner Central area, Lakewood Church.
turning violent. Around 2 p.m. local time, Houston police say a female shooter entered Lakewood Church, the worshiping home of televangelist Pastor Joel Osteen, a mega church that can hold 16,000 people.
She was armed with a long rifle and a trench coat with a backpack, accompanied by a small child, approximately 4 to 5 years old. Once she entered, at some point she began to fire.
All of a sudden, we just heard in the backstage, somewhere around the back out there, a few shots fired.
This man says he was waiting for a Spanish service to begin when gunshots rang out.
Officer and agent engaged, striking the female.
Police say the shooter died at the scene, adding the young child with her was hit and is in critical condition. Investigators say a man was shot in the leg, but is not believed to have been involved.
Once she went down, officers reported back to us that she threatened, that she had a bomb. So we searched her vehicle, our bomb squad, and also the backpack. No explosives were found, but she was also spraying some type of substance on the ground.
Police blocking off the area with many evacuating.
And I thought that I maybe would die. After that, I just sent a message to my husband saying that I love him, and to my daddy saying the same.
Authorities believe the incident was isolated. Pastor Osteen speaking out late today.
We're going to continue to move forward. There are forces of evil, but the forces that are for us, the forces of God, are stronger than that.
Tonight, a community of worship shaken. Jesse Kirsch, NBC News.
Have you guys ever had anyone come into this church with a weapon that you know of, other than the people who potentially carry in the congregation?
We haven't had with a weapon that I have seen or been a problem that I've heard of.
Okay.
But it's not a gun-free zone, so if they're coming in with them, it's not something that's ever come up. We are watching.
Yeah.
We have a team that does screen people and watch people, yes.
We also have cameras too.
We do have cameras on the doors, yes.
Okay. How many exits are here?
4, yeah, there's 4. There's 2 in the back, that one in the doubles.
Okay, so during service is the gate always open?
The gate is open for services, the double doors, that one's locked, and then the back door, and we have people on the double doors and the back door.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, so congregation, basically your service is always in there. Okay.
Mhm.
And usually what's in here?
After service.
Dining
Like a
hall.
phone. All right, so during service, is that door locked? Or-
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Because just so you know, it makes me nervous to stand here. Because I'm like, I gotta look this way, I gotta look that way. So I wonder, like, I look at these types of things like, why do you guys sit where you sit? Why do you stand where you stand? So when I see something come in my peripheral, I pay attention to that. So that's something that I do when I come into a building. Usually I would have done like a walk through the facility to know like where my exits are at. Because right now, I see a door over there and I see a door here. That's the only way I'm gonna go. So where would you go if we had an active threat coming this way? Think about.
If it came that way, we go out the
Yep.
back. If it comes in the back, we go out the front.
Yep. And so is there anything to the north? Can you get out on the north side?
There's a door
The gate to go.
where the bell
The double
tower is.
doors and then the gate. That's the, north and south are solid walls.
Yeah, so think about why we're talking. If you were someplace in this building, how would you get out? Where would you get the kids out? Where would you get people that are not mobile? Where would you get people like me who have to have back surgery in a week? Or someone who is going to be needing a knee replacement sometime soon? How are you going to get those people out? You being a former EMT, it's like, how do you get those people out and do you stay and help people? I always try and come into a spot of like, why did I stand where I stood? Why did I sit where I'm at? When I'm in church service, I typically don't put myself in the middle of the pew. I always put myself either in the back or by a door, or I can see where the door's at. Not everyone has that luxury because if you try to have everyone sit by the back door, you're never going to have anyone in the front. It's kind of like the movie theaters. We'll go moving forward. So active shooters basically through Homeland Security and FBI is basically more than one person trying to actively kill and engage more than 4 people. They want to take out as many people as possible in a short amount of time. That's their goal. So it's kind of the crime of opportunity. If you leave your car door open and you have your computer sitting there, that's a crime of opportunity. They're going to go in, not break your window, they're going to grab it and go. But if you choose to have your doors locked and things in place, that slows down the process. So our goal is to basically slow down the process and stop this threat from happening to the most amount of people. So that's why we're preparing. So they're trying to take out as many people, kill as many people in a short amount of time as possible in this threat. That's what happened and I can't even imagine at that church, it's 16,000 people. If they would have went to the 11 o'clock service, how many people that would happen? It was in between church services. There was an 11 o'clock service and there was a 2 o'clock service, and it happened to be in between services, so there wasn't as many people in the building.
Yeah. Oh, and I think on the report I saw, in between the services, they have the doors locked.
Yep.
So-
That's why I'm curious if this door is locked at all times. Yes, there's a window, but that still having a locked door is going to prevent someone from coming in. It's not like the movies, like on Mission Impossible, when they shoot out the door handle to try and get you, unless that target that they want to take out is inside the building. That's it. Usually when you're having typically there's a random acts, unless it's like a love triangle type of thing or a disgruntled employee. They're trying to take out that person in that building. But here, you're going to get some person who's potentially having a mental crisis on the street that's going to come in where you're going to have that threat. Or we've also had it where someone has been removed from the congregation that has came back and made the threats that way.
Yeah.
So if you ever have that, super important to let your security team know and people who are on staff that this person is no longer here and even call us. Do you guys have a trespass letter in file?
We should. Does it need to be renewed every year?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years? Okay. I'll send one in.
Yep, go online and fill it out. It's on our homepage,
Okay.
WPD. It's on there, so go into the trespass letters and fill it and make sure you have a new one, especially if you've changed any new your pastors or new numbers, so that way we have the most accurate information.
Okay. Yeah, I need to do that then. It's a number of years. It's 5, 6 years old.
If that's the case, then it's probably not active. So please make sure that's done. What would happen is the gates are locked, officer drives by, sees someone hanging out after hours, building's obviously closed, sees someone on your front steps. We know there's a trespass letter in file. We could come onto your property with your guys' permission and cite them, move them along, take them to jail, get them off the business without having to call you guys at 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Mass shootings typically, for FBI, it's typically going to be a firearm in a mass shooting in a threat like that. We're looking at, this is to date, this was in to date right now when I pulled back some information in our mass shootings right now. So we've had 604 in 2023, this information.
Okay, that was
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Again, mass shootings is going to be 4 or more victims on this. So our numbers have gone up. We had our highest incident of when we had the active shooter situation was 2017, which was the Las Vegas shooting, which was at the Country Music Festival. I taught some classes that people were at that festival. It was the most horrifying thing because they're getting shot at, they don't know where it's coming from, and people are being trampled. So not only are you worried about they're getting shot, and then people are dying because they're being trampled in that situation. And our numbers have gone, like they're ebb and flow right now of what's happening in society. Obviously, we just had one just recently. There was one 2 days ago. But it seems to be, you're hearing more of the shootings, it's more prevalent in the media or at schools. But it's not happening in schools the most. It's actually happening in open spaces. Whereas,
Well, question, there's a difference between a mass shooting and an active shooting.
correct. So
The two are conflated constantly, which messes
yeah,
up.
so a mass shooting, active shooting, is an active shooter is trying to take out more than 4 people. So if someone is killed, 2 people are killed, it's not considered a mass shooting. It's 4 or more people that are killed in a mass shooting. Active shooter is you can come into a building like this and nobody be injured, and that's where the difference is between an active shooter. So you can have a mass shooting, it's going to be 4 or more people are killed. But and sometimes it's most of it, and that isn't typically a random act. So, and our gang violence typically isn't involved in those numbers for our active shooter mass shootings because that's a different entity where we're dealing with different situations where it's an act of violence towards that gang that has taken out their families or stealing their drugs. These are typically the random, no known victims. It's just acts of randomness. I was in Georgia last year for a training, happened to be a law enforcement conference. We had over 900 people that were in attendance at this conference. And it's advertised all over the whole city. So we're in Atlanta. I hear, my husband came with me. I'm walking out of the hotel right on the main downtown, and I see cop car after cop car after cop car. And I'm like, something bad's happening, and next thing you know, I see a tactical med van. For me, that when I see that, it tells me not to shut. So then I get on Twitter really quick, and it shows active shooter at the same hotel that I'm staying at. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So then all of us, mind you, we're all out of state typically. We don't have our guns, and we don't have our body, we don't have our armor. And we're thinking this guy, because we got it that it was a guy, stole a car and is trying to kill officers. So this is how bad media is. It says it's at our hotel. We literally were 20 feet from our entrance of the hotel by cop cars are going by us. Going. Comes to find out, he stole a car, he hijacked a person, injured the person that he jumped the car, shot someone at a hospital, which is 4 blocks from our conference, happened to be a similar name, but not the same name as the hotel. So we're on alert. We went into lockdown, and then the whole city locked down around us. But we're at this conference for a week. The guy fled, was found in another city, killed his girlfriend and 4 of her kids because he was mad that she broke up. So that type of thing, and it happened right in front of us. But then media portrays it as, he's a cop killer, but he hasn't even attempted to do anything to us, but it's advertised that way. So it happens everywhere, but he killed 5 people. That's now a mass shooting. And his target was that person, nobody else around, but they all went into lockdown, and the whole city went in lockdown.
Sounds more like a spree.
It was horrible. But he didn't have any other targets. His target was that girlfriend, and the kids happened to be collateral damage. That hospital went in lockdown. It was on the 9th or 11th floor. Everything went into lockdown around him. We were in a restaurant at the time. I could see people act like they know what was going on, so they're all locking us in. And so my husband and I are like, we already know what's going to happen if this guy, because we still thought he was in close proximity to us. So we are like, here's our exit. This is what we're going to do. We sat with our back to the wall. We could see the door. We knew how we were going to get out of the building. We'd already had that plan. So here, how are you going to get out? I'm going this way. I see a door that way. I can't get through that way. You think about weaving in and out of this traffic, how you're going to get when you have, if you have 50 people at church one day, what's going to happen? People are going to be trampled. People are going to be chaotic. How are you going to get out? You guys ever wanted to know some stats? FBI gives us through 2022. They haven't done a study yet for 2023. Great stats on it. It goes on active shooter stuff, and it just shows the progression of why we're teaching these classes, which is so important. 2018-22, it shows the numbers of wounded versus killed. Your chance of survival in an active shooter is typically you're going to be 80% to 20%. So you're going to survive an active shooting. If you get shot, more people are going to survive it, and not unless it's like a fatal immediate wound. This is out of 50, these numbers are. So So you can kind of see open spaces. So 23 out of 50 times it happens, an active incident will happen in an open space. House of worship, 2. But those numbers, as you see, they were starting to rise. Obviously, we just had one just a couple weeks ago as well. But you see education, there's only 4. The reason you think there's more active shootings is because it affects so many of the young kiddos that don't have an opportunity. But so it's open spaces like the businesses open to the public, parks, malls, that type of thing. So in 2022, 2 of the incidents took place, resulting in 4 killed and 5 wounded in those circumstances. This kind of gives you just some numbers that how many times they've been apprehended, and this is again out of 50. Most of the time, the suspect will be apprehended.
At large, meaning they have not been apprehended?
Never been found. Yeah.
I didn't know that happened.
And obviously, sometimes, you know, you'll get the suicide by cop type of thing, or killed, like this lady was killed just recently from our gentlemen that were in service that day. All right, sorry gentlemen, but the majority of our shooters are males. That age has changed in 2023. Used to be 19 to 24 was our main age range, but in 22 and 23, they're going from the 24 to 30, like that late 20, actually mid-20s to early 30s age group. So our age range has changed, but in 21, that was that 19 to 24 age group. And history, there hasn't been many females. Up to 19, there have only been 13 female shooters. We just recently had the one in Texas where the transgender female gone into the school in Texas and killed the kiddos in there, which was unfortunate.
Wasn't that times Nashville?
That was in Texas. It was in a small town in Texas where they went into the school. It was I want to say it was a Christian school, and then she shot out the front windows of the door and made entry. It was a really horrible thing to watch because it was all on, they had school had cameras, and so it could show you every angle that she was going, and it showed every spot where she had went into, and you hear people locking down in that. That's something to think about in here. Why you're here is there a spot that you could lock down if you can't evacuate? Like where could you take people? Where could people go that you're not in line of sight of someone trying to break into the windows? So typically, male shooters, there's only been a few females that have done it, and most of the time it's only one shooter. One shooter usually. And obviously Columbine was 2, and there's only been a few other incidents where it was the male, female in California where
San Bernardino.
Yeah, but most of the time it's a man, and there's usually one shooter.
So when the police come, you tell people, don't leave. They're looking to see if there's a second shooter. If they're going to a second target, keep everybody here. They'll run, but try and keep them correct.
Yeah, honestly, we'll get to that, but if you can get out of this building, you get out of the building. That's your first line of defense.
Yes.
First line of defense is to get out of the building. Get out of the building first, call 911 when you're in a safe spot to do so, and then if you can't get out of the building, you barricade and lock down the best you can. On average, 2 to 3 people will be killed every minute in an active shooter until the killer stopped. 86% of the times the killer stopped by force, meaning you as a congregation is taking that shooter out, or is killed by police, or is committed suicide. The one that's really alarming is the bottom one, is on average, it will take us 3 to 5 minutes to get to you guys. Active shooter incidents typically will be done in 1 to 3 minutes. By the time threat comes in, takes people out, people react, first call comes to 911, then dispatch, then an officer comes. You guys know how bad traffic can be, but there are a lot of ways to come into you guys. We're not gonna sit and wait for SWAT to be here. If the first officer that comes in, they're gonna go to the threat. Second officer comes in, they're going to the threat. Third officer comes in, they're going to the threat. But you have those 3 to 5 minutes on your own until we get to you guys.
After the first phone call, which someone has to get out in a blind panic, call them and
Yeah.
So yes.
People have to feel empowered that it's okay to call if they think a threat's happening. And you know what? If you make a wrong call thinking like, oh, I thought that person was going to do something really bad. I don't care. We don't care.
Yeah.
You have that really weird feeling in your stomach, something's not right. You give us a call. You make that call to us. 3 to 5 minutes. Think about 5 o'clock traffic. You know, if you guys had a service during the week, if you have children's services in here, 3 to 5 minutes. What are you going to do? Is there a way to get out of the way to get out? You know, obviously we can't go this way, but how can you get out places and places to hide? So police response. Our job is to come here. We get the call, you guys call us. We're gonna come here and we're gonna stop the threat. We're looking for the active shooter. If there are wounded people, our job is not to treat the wounded. That's the most alarming thing when we were watching the shooting in Texas where the female transgender was taking out people. Officers there in Texas were stepping over wounded people. We're not there to treat. We're there to take out the threat. That's a hard one to stomach. You're like, why didn't you stop and help? Our job is to take the threat out, then we're gonna come triage and we're gonna get the victims out. So if you have victims in a situation where you can treat and you can put a tourniquet on and you can stop the bleeding, if you can put your finger in the hole, you put your finger in the hole. I see here right now what you use as a tourniquet. Think about what you could use as a tourniquet in this building on your body. Do you guys have a first aid kit that has a tourniquet in it?
We need to stop the bleed kit.
Yep. Yeah. Do you have quick clot? Do you have a chest seal? I see my cord. I see, gentlemen, you probably have a belt on. Might have a tie, tennis shoe, lace, something like that to be able to do it. You go high and tight above the wound. And we'll kind of get on the next one. But I think it's important that people know that people will bleed out quickly, especially as they get older. And I know that it's basically once you're 40 and older, you're going to bleed out faster. I don't bleed very quickly. It takes me like 30 minutes to give blood. So I have a little bit longer, but my husband will bleed out probably in 3 minutes. We're going to take out the threat, then we're going to come back and we're going to triage and get the victims out. And we will have fire personnel standing by, and then we'll come back and do scene containment investigation and then ongoing, meaning you guys as a congregation will need that ongoing protocols after a threat were to take place. What do you have in place? If you had an incident here, what are you going to do for your people? So that's something important, because as you know, you've been through a shooting, and I've been through that, and it's traumatic. Every time I talk about it, it's like, it is horrible that I'm seeing, especially if that churches took place, or even kids getting killed, or adults getting killed that didn't even have a reason to die. So that's how we're going to respond. Being in a medical field, I'll talk about how fire is to respond. Before all these active threats took place, the term staging in quarters. Did you guys ever use that word?
I'm sorry, what?
Staging in quarters?
Yeah.
Okay, so staging in quarters meant for us, for our agency, for EPD, for fire here, was call comes out, something bad's happening. We're gonna wait at the fire station until you guys make it all safe, because we don't have guns and we don't have Kevlar. So we're gonna wait, you say it's code 4, it's clear to come in, then we're gonna come in and we're gonna treat the people that were hurt. Now, what is happening, they're literally waiting around the corner, people to come in and triage and get the victims out as quickly as possible. So if there's an active threat, like the Wild Hall shooting, there was the shooting at the fairgrounds, UCC, Uncle College. So those fire personnel were literally around the corner. They left their station, code 3, lights and sirens, getting just right outside the perimeter. So that way, when the cops go in, they make the scene safe and they get the victims out and they get them to treat. Now what has happened is if there's a threat on one side of the building and we can triage them and get them out, they're trained for that. We have certain tactical medics and firefighters that are now trained in that portion of it because of all the active shooters and all the incidents that have taken place. So we work very cohesive together now, whereas before, and it's a joke, because it's a joke between fire and cops, that they were literally working out, making dinner, while the cops went in and took out the bad guy. But now we're all working together. So that's very refreshing, but also really alarming that we're having to talk this way into it. But the Wild Hall shooting, we had an officer, I mean, it was chaotic. We had one officer that put the victims in his car and took them to the hospital before medics could even get there. And they saved that person's life because they got him there before waiting. Or sometimes what will happen is if there was a victim, we can meet a medic and transfer him over and get them going. We also had one officer that a guy got shot. He put his finger in the hole and found the artery and saved the guy's life. Got a life-saving award, it was amazing, and he found the artery and stopped the bleed.
Time to bleed, yeah.
Yep. So tourniquet, something like that, a stop the bleed kit, super important. I'll talk about a bucket, and what that is literally like Home Depot bucket or a Jerry's bucket that has toilet paper. I think about kids. This would be out of children's service. Toilet paper, a sheet of some sort, because if you get locked and barricaded in a building, what do kids usually have to do? They have to go to the bathroom. Also, we talk about a center punch if you had to break out a window, some food, a tourniquet, little things like that. That way, if there's an emergency situation and they're barricaded in a room for a period of time, they have their little go bucket that they can get things taken care of. This is a reenactment. No blood, no real gunfire, just a reenactment of an office building shooting. And this one is from the FBI.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. But sometimes, bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on yourself, and if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
Think about your cover, your concealment. Cover is going to be your hiding behind another cabinet, where your concealment is going to be hiding behind a little fence post. So that's everything. So places to hide. Because like there's been some times where they and rightly so, because you want to welcome people, but you also don't want people in. So if you vacate to the north and that gate's locked, you're going to be climbing over it, that kind of thing. So that's something to think about, is how you're going to get people out. So your first goal is to get out of the building.
Yeah.
You always want to get out. If you can get out, you get out.
Yeah.
And that's your first thing. And then you call 911. But make sure if 20 people call 911, our phone lines are going to be able to take it. In the Wild House shooting, we had over 120 phone calls come in to 911. We took all the calls. We're going to say, where's your emergency? If you don't know where you're at, you better figure out where you're at. So if people don't know the address, if you say what church it is, we're not going to know. We need to know the address. And if you say, I'm in, and again, I apologize if there's certain terms that I am not using properly, but if you were in the sanctuary, I don't know where the sanctuary is at. I mean, if I came here and I stood outside, you'd be like, okay, we're in X, Y, and Z. You have to be able to tell us where you're at. That's the biggest thing. And make sure people feel empowered to call 911. Because some people, like in businesses, like if it's a place to work, like, well, I shouldn't be able to call 911. Everyone calls 911. We'll take the phone calls.
Then we have roll on 911, right?
What was that?
Roll on 911.
Yes. Yep. And so it's fine. So we'll take it. And even if you call 911 and you left an open line, we're going to ping you. We're gonna figure out where you're at. So, preparing, have it, basically think about your evacuation routes, where you're gonna go, make it simple. Think about your people who are not mobile. That's a big one. Especially if you guys don't have a second story.
No.
Okay, so we don't even need to worry about that. So you don't have an elevator, you don't have a second story, but if you were in a place that had a second story, or you had an elevator, don't go to the elevator, don't go to the roof, don't go to the escalator. Get out as quickly as possible. Discuss your rally points and assisting others. What plan do you have if you know someone who has young children? How are you gonna get them out? Your second line of defense is hide and barricade. How are you gonna barricade? I was looking at this spot right here. You have a crash bar, which is good. Do you have an Allen, is it a Allen wrench to open the crash bar? Do you have that spot, do you have that someplace? Is that the
It
key?
hangs next to every door.
Perfect, because you know what I've seen before? An Allen wrench attached to 25 keys in the bottom of a drawer that they can't get to. This happened at a preschool, and I'm like, so when you're in an emergency, are you gonna know where that's at? Are you gonna be able to think about your 50 kids that you need to get out and get your Allen wrench? How are you gonna get out? So crash bars obviously going out, not a big deal, but it's if you need to get them locked and they're always open, that would be the main thing. But I do see, if the suspect saw me standing here and he wanted me, he's gonna shoot that window out. But if I'm over here and the door's locked, he's probably gonna go around to the other side because he's already known that he's trying to get in and people are calling 911. Again, prime of opportunity, take out as many people in a short amount of time as possible.
That's one of the things that I keep bothering him and my priest about is we need to get kind of cage things to put where the windows are so people can't just reach in and just open the door.
So yes,
break the
ideally,
windows,
but
reach
even
in.
if you did a little roll up felt, I think of a little roll up blind, pull it, because if you pulled it, if you heard something was happening, say something happened on the north side of the building, and over here you guys were having a dining hall, and someone alarmed you, told you something bad was happening, I'm gonna shut the lights off, I'm gonna close the blinds, I'm gonna pull the little thing so people can't see me, and then I'm gonna try and hide. And then I'm gonna hide, and if I can get out, I'm gonna get out. So you hide, barricade, and then if you can get out, you get out. Some people will hide, and then some people will evacuate at the same time. It's your choice. I can't tell you how to respond. I can give you the tips and advice, but I would consider doing a little, and we do this in schools all the time, because it's not expensive, and they can even do the little command strips. And then you just, little sticky command strips. They're you don't even have to, you can stick it on the wall without damaging it. And you can do some felt to it, roll up felt or fabric. And then have it tied with a little ribbon, and something bad happens, you pull it, and then it at least covers that spot right there. And then you have those other blinds there that you could close, because if I'm trying to peek in and I don't see anyone,
There's no target, yeah.
I'm not gonna waste my time trying to find people that I don't even know if they're in there. Something to think about, which, if people have smartwatches, or even a little active watch, every time I move my arm, it lights up. I did a presentation at a school that had no windows, and we did tell, it was elementary school teachers. They were amazing at locking down, but my suspect got in the building, because we were doing a training, and he found my teachers because their little arms lit up like fireflies. So put them in your pocket, silence your phones, put your phones in your pocket, because it does light up a lot, especially when you move around. So hide. You want to hide as many places as possible. My line of sight's right here. I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be over there. I'm going to be in the sanctuary. I'm going to be someplace else. Even if I was to be hiding over there down below where the suspect can't see me. I also recommend not hiding. I think about this when little kids play soccer. When little 3-year-olds play soccer, what do? They go around the soccer ball like a little beehive. That's all they do. They follow the ball around. So if you have all your people in one spot and the suspect gain entry to the building, he's going to take out as many people because everyone's hiding in the same spot. It sounds like people have ways potentially on their body that can maybe take out an incapacitated shooter. I see weapons in here that I could use right now if the shooter, but here's the deal, is if you're going to choose to fight, you fight with aggression and you commit to your fighting. And I would hope that if one person chose to fight back, other people are going to fight back as well. When we teach Alice, which is in the schools, is we tell them to go for the body, legs, arms, and go for the arm that has the weapon. And if the weapon gets taken out of their hands, we say, put it under a garbage can, put it someplace, unless you are proficient in that weapon, don't pick it up. Because it could be taken against you and used. And then officers come in and see you standing over a suspect with a gun. We don't know you the difference between a suspect or you're the person who's actually trying to take out the person. So if you choose to bring a weapon to the fight, know that it can be used against you, take it against you, and then also if an officer comes in, you drop it and you put it away. So when we teach it in schools, we say put a garbage can over the top of it, get it away from the suspect, and hold the suspect down until we get. We're looking for the suspect, we're looking for a gun. So we don't know the difference between you being a suspect or you being a good person trying to take the suspect out. So we're not going to be doing that. We're looking for weapons. We're going to see that. So the shooting.
If you're fighting with improvised weapons, why don't you go for the head as well as the weapon arm?
You can, if you have enough people. So if there's one person, and I'm going to use this as an example, at Thurston, Jake Riker was the kid who took out Kip. He was a wrestler there, and he had 4 of his other wrestling buddies and his girlfriend basically took him down. They tackled him, they sat on top of him, they got the gun away from him, Jake got shot, girlfriend got shot, they both survived. But they went for their arms, they basically put them in wrestling holds because they were all wrestlers. And Kip was a smaller kid, they held him down, got the gun away, shoved it away, never picked up the gun, and then teachers came in and got the gun away. So they went for the body, head, as you know, especially if it's a female or a man who has longer hair, pulling the back of their hair and getting their head, you can control a lot of people with their head. But going for the body, going for the mass, larger parts. Because if the person has a gun, go for the arm, go for the stomach, go for the waist and the legs, and taking them out on that person. But if you only have one person, I'm going for the larger part of the body. And I'm ducking and going because if a shooter's shooting at you, typically we have had, I know one person for sure that had trained before a shooting. They went out to a range, and this is what it tells us old school, like when we were little, we hide under our desk during an earthquake. They went out and put the targets on the ground that we shoot at the range, the cardboard targets, put them on the ground and shot every single one.
Oh, the active shooter practice shooting people
Yeah.
on the ground.
That's what they did.
Yes.
So they're expecting us to do nothing. And so they're not trained professionals, and we do it all the time. We train in situations where, and we use Nerf guns when we do these trainings. If we're throwing little stress balls at people, and their guns go like this, up and down. And then you have someone coming in at the body, going down low and taking them out. That's usually what we're doing, and we're taking out our trained professionals before they can get a shot off on us. So you think about someone who's not a trained professional that's trying to take people out, more likely you're not gonna get a fatal wound. If you're gonna commit to taking someone out, you commit fully, and I hope that other people jump in. The gentleman over in Bend that worked at the Safeway, he committed to take the shooter out. Unfortunately, he didn't make it. But he saved so many lives, and nobody else was around to help him. He was working on the produce at the time. The shooting, it had started over in Costco, and someone saw it and called it in, then it was Safeway, and he ended up shooting a gentleman out of the work. But he committed to take them out, and he stopped so many other people from getting killed.
They have a program in the schools too where the kids bring canned goods so that they can throw
Yeah. And how
canned good will
sad is
hurt.
that? So we started teaching this in school when my youngest was 2nd grade. He, at that age, already knew, because he's a football player, he's a bigger kid, he knew what he was gonna do. Breaks my heart, but he's like, Mom, I'm gonna stand in front of the door so they don't get my buddies, and they don't get my teacher, and I'm gonna throw this, and this, and I'm like, oh honey, please. But that was his mindset. He was 8 years old. How sad is that our kids are having to grow up this way, and our grandkids that are having to do this. But you know what? If we don't teach it to people, then we're doing a disservice. Fight. If you can fight back. Think about in here what you could use to fight back with. Where's the fire extinguisher at? Where's the closest one?
In the kitchen, and there's one over there.
Okay. So fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
Spray it at him. Don't get close. You shouldn't get close enough to hit him over the head, but if that were to be the case and someone were to walk in the door, whack him on the head with it. My water bottle, super heavy. Those types of things. If you have a knife, I would throw it at him. I wouldn't stab it at him unless you were in close proximity. But things about keeping here. There's so many things that you could throw at somebody, and just that causes distraction. So it's movement, distance, and distraction for the person. So you're creating a bad environment for that shooter. Again, distance, moving, screaming, yelling, anything you can to get that shooter away from you. And making sure someone's calling 911. Info share. Again, I need to know where you're at so I can come find you. Yeah, so you can scream and yell, active shooter, man with a gun, woman with a gun. Get out. Do you have that? Is it something that you guys practice and plan? That if I see someone in that parking lot right now that is carrying a weapon, even if they're walking by, because Oregon's an open carry state, that's alarming. I'm going to shut down the building. I'm going to lock the building down. If a person is literally walking in the WIC, which we know happens, what about it? that I don't want them coming in because I don't know what their intent is. So how are you going to communicate to your staff and your congregation?
Yeah, it's really important to say woman with a gun or man with a gun,
Yes.
not person.
Yes. Especially now, and what you believe is a man or a woman type thing. And even in clothing can be discarded, but if we know the person got out of a yellow car, wearing a green shirt, brown hair, carrying a big gun, we need to know that. And we also need to know if there is 2 shooters. Again, most likely than not, but still, if they're shooters and if they chose to leave the area, which direction of travel they're going, how can we get to them quickly? So that information is super important for us. Again, we're going to ask you where the emergency is. And then you're going to all want to say, it's a guy with a gun, but just get out as much information as possible to us. All right, so just having a simple conversation right now for you guys is going to help you prepare for the event. However you guys are going to get it out, you get it out. Man with a gun, woman with a gun, get out of the building. Don't say fire. And it happens all the time. People are like, fire. I'm like, how many people cry wolf? Think about all the fire drills we did in school. We all lined up in a single file line, and we walked out slowly. We didn't touch each other, and we had to get out of the building. Man with a gun, woman with a gun, get out of the building. But if you were in this place before, like sometimes to get people out of the building, but some people think it's like, what if I pulled it like an office building? What if I pulled the fire alarm? What do we usually do? Oh, that's a false alarm. It always happens. If your building has 10 false alarms, fire alarms go off weekly, you're going to be immune to it. So that's why we try not to do that, because it's important to announce.
Well, a school shooter, active shooter, pulled the alarm so all the kids would come out so you could shoot them.
Yep. And
where did that happen?
I want to say it was part of Columbine, but it was a long time ago that it happened. And yeah, absolutely. And they're going to walk out slowly. Oh gosh, it's just another fire alarm. You know, it's a planned drill. Yeah. Now we do active shooter drills, and they're supposed to do them 3 times a year in schools. This is my paranoia versus preparation talk. I'm going to tell you what I do. Mind you, I've been in law enforcement for a very long time. My husband and I have been in law enforcement. I've been in longer since him. We're both only children. It's very hard to have both people in law enforcement and want to sit in the same chair at all the time. I conceded, and he gets to sit with his back to the wall unless we sit together. But when we have our kids together, we always sit with our back to the wall so we can see the door. In the mall, I always know that I can go, if there's an active threat, active shooter in a mall, I know that I can go into a store, go to the back of the store, and that's how employees come into the building. There's an employee entrance, so I know my escape there. When I go to the movie theater, obviously we know that one of the first shootings too happened in the movie theater. I'm taking my kids when they're little. I always trained them to always know where the exits are at. And I did it as, hey, what if there's a fire, boys? How are we going to get out of the building? Because they always wanted to they wanted to sit in the very front row and have their heads back. And we never let them do it, but we'd always sit at the top. We'd always sit on the ends. We'd never sit in the middle. And that way, if I had to jump over the edge, I could jump over the edge. Then that way I could see people coming in and I could listen. Church, in my church, I never sit in the middle. we always sit on the ends, and I always sit where I can see an entrance or an exit. When I'm in a drive-through getting coffee, I always leave. So I'm in a drive-through. I give myself enough space to get out of a bad situation, so I'm not ramming cars, so I can quickly do a U-turn or drive over the little median area. Why do you sit where you're at? Why do you choose the location you're in? So I choose certain spots that if I need to get out, I can get out. I always know where my exits are at. So when I came in here, I could see I can get out that way. I can see I can get out that way. You see me kind of scanning because I see people coming through this way. People think it's paranoia. I'm prepared. February 13th, we're getting ready to go to Utah for a big hunting. I'm a big hunter, so we're going to a hunting expo. I live down south, down in Cottage Grove, and I'm in my personal car, just got off work, had to go get gas. If you've ever been to Cottage Grove, it's a really small town, and there's train tracks that run through all of town. And I'm stuck at the stoplight, my husband's coming home, he's in his work car, he's stuck on the other side of the tracks. I'm telling him, hey, go down to Dairy Queen and cross over the tracks, you'll be able to get home quicker. And there's a store to my right, and there's like a brewery to my left, and the brewery's closed, but the store is open. There's a car in front of me, car behind me, I have my seatbelt on, my car door locked, my car's in drive. Talking to my husband, saying, hey, go down here, and I'm like, hey, there's this guy. I used to work in Cottage Grove. I worked there for 14 years, and I was a community service officer, and I dealt with the jail, I dealt with people, basically I dealt with all our inmates, so people know me in town. I see this guy with his bicycle, a typical unsavory fella in Cottage Grove, pushing his bike, and he's looking at me like, and he's staring at me. I'm like, oh, God, does he know me? Does he know me from my former years? And I've been gone from Cottage Grove for 2 years, but I still live in that vicinity. He's looking at me, he's like, roll your window. I'm like, huh? I'm not rolling my window. And the train's loud, I'm on the phone, and I tell my husband, hey, there's a guy trying to talk to me. He's trying to get in my car. I carry, so he's like, where's your gun? I said, I grab it, so I put it on the front seat. And he's motioning like, roll your window down. I'm like, no, I'm not rolling my window down. At that point in time, I had enough space to do a complete UE, but I was afraid my car has a horrible turning radius, so I backed up just a little bit. He drops his bike and he starts pounding on my window. He's screaming and yelling at me, and at some point in time, and this is something I'm trained with, at some point in time, I hit my window, like, leave me alone. Black and blue knuckle, don't even remember doing it until I got home because my knuckle hurt. So that tunnel vision of like, oh my gosh, something's really bad's gonna happen right now. Next thing you know, he grabs my door handle and starts grabbing it really hard. So at that point in my mind, I have my gun here, I'm on the phone with my husband on Bluetooth, and he's like, you gotta hang up and dial 911. And I'm like, and he's like, and I hear it in his voice, he's stressed because he can't get to me because he knows Cottage Grove is on the other side because he just saw 2 cops on the other side of the train tracks, and the train tracks here. So in his mind, he tells me after the fact, I already knew what I was going to do. I was going to jump the train and get over the tracks and get to you. I'm like, that's dumb, but okay, do what you need to do. So he banging on my door. I back up, and he starts screaming and yelling at me even more. I end up starting to do a U. He goes to my passenger side, picks up his bike, throws his bike at my car. And I'm like, oh crap. Okay, so I turn around. He leaves my car, he goes to another vehicle's car, a female at the time. He tries to get in her car. I pull around, call 911, it's my friend, and I told her what's going on. She's like, we're coming to you, I gotta hang up. I said, no, multiple calls are coming in to 911 because the guy's trying to get into another car. I knew the guy got in my car, he broke my window, I was gonna shoot. I already had that in my mind, I already had it played out. He made injury to me because I don't know what he's doing. I could see he had no weapons here, but I didn't know if he had something in the small of his back.
He doesn't need a weapon.
I know the guy's crazy. I see him in Cottage Grove. I know what he does. I made the mind I'm going to shoot him. Or I'm going to run over my car. I don't care. I'm going to Utah the next day. I'm going to Utah. I pull over to the other parking spot. I have my hazards on. Have my car in drive. Seatbelt's already off. When he got to my car, I took my seatbelt off. I always do that when I'm in a drive-thru because if I need to get out of my situation, I can get out. Go to the brewery. Start honking my horn to draw his attention away from the other lady. That way, if I go slow enough, I know cops are going to get to me. We're going to get the guy, but I'm going to draw him away from. I start honking my horn. He starts following me. I'm going about 10 miles an hour. You know what gets me? I live in Cottage Grove. We're a lot of rednecks down there. Sorry, but we are. We have a lot of people to carry. Nobody got out to help me. Nobody offered to help the other lady. And I'm like, I would have got out. Not when he's in my car, but when he was in the other lady's car, I would have said, hey, leave her alone, got my car, call 911. But just to draw the attention, we're talking about that distraction, that distance, that movement. That's that distraction. I was honking my horn to distract him, to get him away from her. So, pull out, he's chasing me with his bike, throws his bike in the middle of the road, still chasing me. I lose him, I can't see him, it's dark, it's 6 o'clock. He skirts the building. What do? I'm really mad. I stop. Get out of my car because I lost him, leave my gun in the car because I'm so mad because he threw his bike, and I know this, but I'm so mad that he basically dented my car. And I'm like, I get out, the lady's there, she goes, he ran into the tavern, I'm like, okay, so I hear cops coming, and then one of my buddies shows up, and then our new guy shows up. He has no clue who I am because he's new, he's only been there for a week. I said, hey, he goes, yeah, okay, where's he at? So they go in, then next to you, my husband shows up, and another officer shows up. They go in and arrest him in the bar. He has no weapons on him, but he had medication on him. And he said, all I have is my medication. And then next thing you know, he lawyers up. So he's crazy, but he's smart enough to lawyer up. But here's the catcher. First call comes in with him. I'm at 10 in Maine. First call comes in at 7 in Maine. He picked up a big stick and tried to hit a lady. Next call comes in, 8 in Maine. Another victim. I'm that third victim. So now we arrest him for basically carjacking, attempted carjacking, so it's attempted UUV, menacing, disorderly conduct, criminal mischief, unlawful use of a weapon, for this guy that basically, I could have been trapped in my car. He could have been trying to get in, he could have broken my window, but I gave that distance in my car to get out of a bad situation. I already had a plan. I'm going to shoot him if he makes entry in my car, or I'm going to run him over. I would have been late to Utah, but I'd have been alive. At that time, if you guys carried, I carried a 380 at that time. I went back to my old duty weapon. Now I could carry a bigger gun, heavier in my purse, but that 380 still would have hurt him. But I already made that plan and preparation in mind. That's plan versus paranoia versus preparation. And I had a great story, and I cannot believe it happened to me because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what it's personal incident. It's meant to be UUV. That's what that is. But yeah, so I had a plan. But
What does UUV mean?
unlawfully, basically, like stealing a car. Like they're a car,
Unlawful use of a vehicle.
Yep.
That's
So-
a carjacking?
Yeah, you're gonna have it. Yeah, you're gonna have it. Basically, you're gonna be stealing a car. Yeah.
Well, carjacking with the person inside the car is
Different.
different than a car
Yep.
theft.
Yep.
But
So he's a
they're
car-
both called UUV?
Yeah. So carjacking is not a code. It's just a term. I had a weapon. I was ready. I was prepared to use it. So that was the thing for
You
my.
got out of the car.
Tell me about it. My husband chewed my butt, and I was like, oh, because I was so mad.
Yeah, you can't plan to be for
Yes.
the contingency of being triggered.
Yes.
In
And that's
modern
what it was.
parlance.
And that's what it was. It was like.
Enough
And
of
there was
this
a
crap.
lady that was at the gas station who I saw everything and said, stay with the car. I left my gun in the car because I'm so focused on this guy that tried to hurt another female and hurt me because we were all female victims, which I hate using that word as a victim. Sorry, I just like being a victim. It bothers me. They sent me victim's advocate paperwork in the mail, and now I have to go to court for this gentleman that chose to feed a turkey that day towards me. Recap: run, get out, leave your stuff behind. Most people have your cell phones on. If you have your cell phone on you, keep it with you. Don't go back to get it. Make sure someone calls 911. If you all call 911, awesome. Hide, barricade, lock yourself down. How are you going to lock yourself down in this facility? Or where you work, or where you go to school, or if you go to the mall, or to the movies, what are you going to do? Blinds, close things off, turn your lights off, look for escape routes if possible. A lot of times if you have the option to barricade first and then get out, do it. Like if you can barricade your sanctuary and then you can get out a window, do it. I want to touch something really fast on something like remain in place until it's all clear from us. This happens in schools, happened over in Michigan where active shooter, kids were all locked in a room. Knock, 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 please let me in. Knock, 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 please let me in. Kids went to go unlock the door. They're like, no, don't, it's the bad guy. It was the bad guy. We come in to get you guys and you're not sure it's us. Get on the phone, call 911. Hey, Officer Jones is right outside my door. Is that true? They'll get on the radio. Officer Jones, are you right outside our room 301? Yes, I am. Okay, we're gonna let you in. Typically, if the building's all clear, the person who's in charge of the building, so if you, Deacon, were here or if your pastor was here and everything was all clear, you would have keys to the facility and you'd go around thinking about getting us out. Thinking about how you're gonna get patients out who are immobile, that can't get out. If there's little kiddos, kids are gonna freeze. They're gonna probably go to the bathroom. And if you have to throw them over your shoulder, throw them over your shoulder. But the biggest thing for you is get yourself out, get your family out, and if you feel compelled to get others out, that's up to you. There's no best way to make a decision in an active threat. Like for me, I left my gun in the car because I was mad. The guy did this to me the day before I'm leaving for vacation. And then I wanted to make sure he was caught. Fight back with all your might, use anything you can. 106 active shooter events that ended before law enforcement arrived. 35 incidents, 27 of those times that they were subdued by the attacker before we got there. It takes 3 to 5 minutes for us to get to you guys. Plan an attack, plan a way to get out, plan what you're gonna do in this facility or any other places that you're at. Basically, it's just call 911, try and stay calm as much as possible. If someone's bleeding, apply pressure. If you have to put your finger in the hole, put your finger in the hole, or apply a tourniquet. You go high and tight. And if it's anything above, and as you know this, if it's anything above, you can't put a tourniquet on a person's neck, so you're gonna apply pressure and try and stop the bleeding on that. And if it's like a wound here, you're gonna have to apply pressure. So if you're looking at extremities, you go high and tight on those. If the person's injured, do your best to keep them as comfortable as possible. Sounds like you have someone who is potentially here that could help. And if you have other people that have first aid CPR trained, make sure they know to do that. Give basic information, share basic names and things like that. Let us know exactly what took place. Don't speculate. If you're getting something fifth hand, that's not going to be accurate for us. So if someone needs, it's important that the person who's calling has accurate knowledge of that information that's taking place. Just a quick brief on a tourniquet. Again, it used to be 2 inches above the wound. Now we're taught go high as possible. The tourniquet should hurt more than the injury itself. If you have to hold the person down to get the tourniquet on, do it. and if it's still bleeding, tighter. We have officers that have done a couple, we have a gentleman who's still on our staff that he plays, no matter what, if a person's bleeding, he's applying a tourniquet, because he wants to save that person's life, and he's put 2 or 3 on them at a time.
Even if they're not shot in that extremity, he does a tourniquet?
If they're bleeding profusely, yeah. Yeah, so we had,
okay.
there was a gentleman who had a really bad knife wound. He's like, tourniquet, tourniquet, stop the bleeding. Yeah.
Okay, you say 2 or 3?
So if you had a tourniquet on your body, someone put it on you, we're not gonna take that tourniquet off you. We're gonna put ours as high as possible, and if it's still bleeding, sometimes we'll put another one on.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
We will never take the tourniquet off.
Okay.
It's there. This is just a little thing that I gave you, kind of a simple run, hide, fight on what to do in a situation where people are trying to kill you. That's
I've
what
got a
I got
question.
like that.
Are we getting the bus loads and plane loads of border crossers?
Not as much, not here. But we do have a lot of people that legally shouldn't be here.
But they just gave out 600 cities where they're coming to
Yep.
next, and we were one of them.
Yep, and I tell you, I live in Cottage Grove, just I live in the county, but I live in Cottage Grove, and we have, because we're a sanctuary state and safe haven, we have a lot of people that are undocumented, specifically in Cottage Grove, that are from Guatemala. And we don't know, that like to drive drunk, that like to just not follow the rules because they don't know it, because it's different than their country, but yes.
We're on the list?
We are, and they just sent that out 2 weeks ago, 600 cities and Eugene, Oregon, because Portland's saturated.
Oh, yeah.
So we're next.
That's why I live in the county, I mean, honestly. But I know in the county that it's gonna take forever for people to get to us, so we have a plan at our house.
So I've lived in a lot of different places,
Yeah.
and, you know, I'm always on my husband, lock those doors.
Oh, yeah, lock the doors all the time.
And it's your first line of defense.
Yeah, keep your
Come
car
in
doors
the
locked,
house,
keep
lock
your
the
house
doors.
locked. Yeah, we always do that for us. We have cameras. We are fortunate that both my husband and I have take-home cars, and so the unsavory folks that have burglarized our houses up above us don't come to our house because they know what's gonna happen. My kids are prepared that if someone chose to come into our house, they know, they are comfortable with firearms. But again, if you're not comfortable with firearms, don't bring it to the gate. Someone got into your house and they stole your car keys and then they ran out and then you shot them in the back. Not a good situation at all. Protecting property, no-go, or deadly force, protecting yourself or a third person, absolutely. If I know that someone's trying to kill me by putting my house on fire and there's there, I'm gonna shoot them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to court.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm gonna save my family, I'm gonna save my friends. Yeah. Well, if there's something that comes up during this time frame, look at your plans, look at your evacuation maps, look about, you know, how are you gonna get out of here? What are you gonna do? Yeah, you get out, you know, like when you teach it in schools, they say, go to the big tree in the field. No, just run. Get out. We've never had people stolen or kidnapped in an active shooter. Get out. You'll figure it out. But, you know, making sure that we get the call, though, is super important. And
Yeah.
if you get people stuck in here,
Yeah.
know that they're capable and know that they're empowered to do that.
Yes.
So, assuming someone has the ability to fight back, let's say with a firearm,
Mhm.
what would be a good thing to keep in mind to not make the situation worse?
Don't brandish a weapon. This is what I didn't do. And my husband's like, why didn't you show the gun? I said, because if I'm going to bring that gun, so say someone comes in and they're acting super crazy and you don't see a weapon, and if you choose, and you don't know that they're armed, and you choose to bring your gun to the fight, you're going to aggravate the situation. Now, I chose to leave my gun in my purse. My husband says, I would have pointed it at him in a heartbeat. I said, well, that's you. But for me, I didn't feel that was the best situation for me. So if you're in a situation and you're carrying and you see someone come in with a gun and you're in a spot where he can't see you, honestly, I would do your best to still call 911. But if the person starts shooting, and if you're confident with that, then if you can take the shooter out, do it. That's what I would do. But in that situation where the gentleman tried to get in my car, I knew I'm not going to point it at him and say, get the heck out away from my car. I hit the window, didn't do anything other than bruise my knuckle. If he would have gained entry, that's when I would have branched it. But I'm not going to bring it to the fight because I'm still in a vehicle. I'm still protected. I can still use my car as a weapon to run him over because I'm going to run him over. Kind of that same thing. So don't bring it to the fight unless you're prepared to use it. He comes in and you're over here and you have the opportunity to take him out and take a clean shot and you're comfortable with that. Those are some things to
So
think about.
Daniel, we do have a firearm policy and part of what we do, but I'll discuss that with you personally. Yeah.
Pepper spray.
I like bear spray. Bear spray.
I got bear spray everywhere.
I like pepper spray as well, but it goes to, and girls usually are the worst about it. They have all their little fuzzy keychains and all their keys with their pepper spray. You know what they haven't done? They haven't sprayed it. They don't know what it smells like. They don't know if they can be shut down. I know that if I get pepper sprayed, my throat shuts down, and I'm gonna use deadly force. I've done that in my training where I've documented it, that it shuts me down. But if you carry pepper spray, know what it feels like, know what it tastes like, smells like, so that way you're comfortable using it. It's kind of like anything. If you're gonna practice it, obviously not a firearm getting shot, but I've been tased before, I've been pepper sprayed. I know what it feels like. I haven't been hit with an ass, but it's gonna be like a baseball bat. But just know those situations, because if the first time you practice it is in an emergency situation, what's gonna happen? You're gonna fumble. You're gonna do what I did, because I've never been attacked in my car. I'm gonna get out of my
I
car.
already set that up right, oh my gosh.
And so, but for me, it's like, I couldn't tell if he had a weapon behind his back. And then I'm like, well, crud, this isn't fun. And my husband's on the other side of the tracks, and he's trying to come get to me. I don't know if he has a gun in the small of his back. I could see his hands are free, see he has baggy pants, could have had it shoved in the front, but that's kind of where I was at. All the guys said, why would I take a gun? I said, yeah, but that's different. It's different, because what if he would have gotten in my car, and that I'd already brandished it, then I'm fumbling, because I've never practiced in that situation before. I've never practiced having a gentleman try to come to me and get in my car, because I wasn't a victim. I was a victim the other day. It was the best decision for me at that time. Now, would I have done it differently? Yeah, I would have got out of my car with my gun. That's what I would have did. I wouldn't have left my gun in the car. Period. Because guess what? He went into that tavern. I didn't know if he had a weapon. Now we have other victims in that tavern. So hopefully that answers your
Well,
question.
one thing Tom Eichhorn told me, he says, one whiff of OC spray in a church, and people are going to asthma attacks. It
Yep.
doesn't work for a church environment to try and use that.
So for my kids, when they travel, I give them bear spray. My kid travels with a shotgun because he's underage, so he can't have a sidearm because if he's 21 for a handgun. But that's what he carried. He carried a bear spray and he carried a shotgun. And if he got in trouble, he got in trouble. I didn't care because he was traveling 4,000 miles across state lines. I wanted him to be safe because he's 18 and he knows it all. So I will tell women, specifically women, if they're working after hours, if they're going to have pepper spray in their office, have it attached, like Velcro, to some place, because especially if they're the first line of defense, someone coming in, have it attached to the wall under the desk.
That's brilliant.
So that way, because
Yeah.
what do you do? Fumble for it, you have a bad situation, you can't get to it. I like the bear spray attached underneath the desk area, especially because I do a lot of downtown ones. I'm like, downtown's awful. It's not as bad as it was, but it's, if there's something that comes up, you guys have my information. The deacon has how to get a hold of me, because sometimes there might be something comes up and you just want to bounce it off of me. Thank you.
Oh,